Blessings. I just want to make sure I have this all down here and correct. Ooh. Blessings and welcome, everyone. I'm so very grateful to be with you here this morning. It is an honor, it is a privilege, it is an absolute blessing that we have this time and space together this morning to share on so many levels, on so many dimensions of wellness, of our being whole and sovereign, of our being and coming into a greater depth of being our true selves, of being free of the past, that we may be liberated to embody this now moment and all the beautiful ways that that means that you are being here now. I am Tuesday May Thomas. I am a Heaven on Earth ambassador, here to teach self-mastery. I have learned how to heal my past, that I do not encumber and create the same circumstances for my present moment or for my future. And that's what I feel so guided to be here with you today and on every day to share what I've learned with you, that you may also embody and bring into your life these tools, these ways of thinking, these levels of consciousness that can help to shift your reality. If you are indeed here with me this morning, please do give me a little hello in the comment box. I would be so very grateful. Thank you so much. 4D Trinity, fourth dimensional consciousness. What is that? 4D Trinity is where we bridge fourth dimensional consciousness. We learn how to bridge fourth dimensional consciousness through the unity of mind, body, and spirit. Fourth dimensional consciousness, the way I see it, the way I'm here as a Heaven on Earth ambassador to share with you, is heaven on earth, is living heaven on earth, the heaven on earth realization. And what is that? That is mental balance. That is you making conscious choices in every moment and in every day that allow you to feel liberated, that allow you mental peace, right? It's you and it's me making those choices that help to co-create a heaven on earth reality and a heaven on earth realization that others may touch and tap and drink from that sweet nectar. Heaven on earth is also forgiveness. It's you, it's me choosing forgiveness in this moment and in every moment, forgiving the past. Even 2 seconds ago was the past. Can we forgive ourselves? Can we forgive others of that past? As we do, we collapse time. We allow ourselves to embody and to bring to earth an emotional stability, an emotional balance. And when we are emotionally balanced, we experience heaven on earth. Heaven on earth, fourth dimensional consciousness is you, is me, choosing love over and over and over again. And when we choose that, the almighty power of love, what we do is we co-create a matrix. We co-create a new labyrinth within the labyrinth of collective consciousness that gives rise, that creates a pathway to that divine presence of love, that nature of love that is the truth, that is the fabric on which we are all connected. We are all born from and birthed from, and where we all go back to when we die, if you will. And when we do this collectively, when we do this together, we fortify, we nourish this collective that is allowed. We make space for us, for others to be allowed to be in the world and not of it. And this is heaven on earth realization. This is you, this is me doing this right now. Are you ready? I know I am. Thank you. I have some people writing in and saying that they are here. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. I so appreciate your love and your support. It means so very much to me. So, again, if you're here, please do drop a little hello into the comment box. And some of you have had trouble finding that comment box, and it should be just to the right of this screen. So, please do drop me a line. I am so very grateful for it. So before we begin this morning and get deeper into our strata of teachings, I always like to start with a little prayer. So let's take a moment and close the eyes. We'll take a deep inhale and a full exhale. And as we do this, we drop into a place of peace, a place where we can relax together through the word of the Most High Love. We call in our angels, our guides, our guardians, ascended masters, that you may hold space for us, that we may see through our light sight, through our third eye vision, beyond the veils of the world, to the true place and space where heaven resides within us and all around us. We call in perhaps those loved ones that have passed, that are still hanging out in the ethers, that are here as spirit guides to serve us, to hold space for us. We thank you. We call you in again, that you may illumine, especially on this day, the tunnels of time and space as we journey our healing path together. We call in our animal spirits, our totems, divine protectors along this path. And why I say protection is because while we straddle and navigate this plane of duality, of collective consciousness where love and fear resides, sometimes we need a little help, a little holding, and our totem guides do that for us. I call in the whale, the mighty record keeper of the collective consciousness here on the planet. I call in the dolphin. Ooh, that's a new one. That came out from left field. I don't usually call in the dolphin, but the dolphin, that which holds space for the whale, that is in so many ways a gatekeeper, a divine holder of space for that whale, for that record keeper of all wisdom. And also the dolphin demonstrates to us the ability to breathe underwater, to breathe no matter what the circumstances are. I call in the raven, that divine messenger, which bridges and brings these messages through all time and space, through all dimensions, from one dimensional plane of being to the next. I call in the hummingbird, that's which sings the sweet songs of joy. May we remember together that joy, that love, that contentment and peace is the truth. And I call in the horse, that which represents the power of freedom. Thank you so very much. All of our divine guides, our angels, our blessed loved ones, thank you. And thank you, everyone, for joining me this morning. And I know some of you like to watch and not comment and not say that you're here, and that's okay too. I'm just so grateful that you're here. Whew, it's been a very, very interesting week. You know, every week I do a tarot card reading, and I'll put a link here for this last week's one. And I have been embodying everything that I really didn't want to. All the warning signals, as such, from that tarot reading. I have had such a stressed week, and it has been incredible because besides the stress and the few tears and whatnot, especially over that full moon period, I feel that I have been given this divine gift through this week of stressful being and becoming, because it reminds me of my truth. Right? So when we get stressed, when time shrinks and we feel that we are in a rush and that there isn't enough time to be our true selves, isn't enough time to give back to ourselves or to do things in a way that we truly feel is what we are, is in alignment with us. Well, it's an opportunity and an invitation to come back to ourselves. And so I bless it and I give thanks for it, because it has allowed me to remember the truth of myself. As I've gone through all these little stress points this week, I've remembered, well, how do I want to do life? How do I see myself? And this is a part of our timeline healing, right? So I've gotten to go back in time and realized what the truth is in my heart and how I do want to do things versus how I'm doing things. And it's given me the opportunity to reconstruct the mental values, the mental aspects that I hold in my mind, so that this can reconstruct the collective, how I plug into the collective and help guide me back to that plane of perfection that is the truth in my heart. So I just wish to offer this to you, that as you maybe go through these aspects yourself, that you remember and realize that it is just these experiences are just here, that we may come back to our truth, right? So what is your truth today? What truth are you living and embodying today? Healing timelines, time travel with heart. That is the theme of this morning's live stream. You know, who would you be if you were free of your concerns of the past? Who would you be if you were free of the fears that you walk with? Who would you be? What part of you? How much more of yourself would you be if you felt that you had made peace with people, places, things, experiences of your past? And even if you feel that you're doing pretty good and you're at the outer rung of the healing, the layers of these aspects, there's always more. There's always more. As long as we are human beings in a body here on this planet, there is more to heal, more depth to the love that you can and that you are being here and now. And all we're doing is we're rerouting the mind, which is the root of all of our emotional reactions and triggers. We're rerouting the mind space, coming back to love, coming back to light, that we may be illumined in that great love, in that great light, and guided by it versus guided by stress, guided by fear, and guided by the past. The now moment is that which truly abides. That's where time is, if there is such a thing as time. All there is now. And it is quite a concept to come into realization with. Though as we begin to wrap our minds and our hearts around it and meditate with it, we can realize that our freedom, that our truth is in the now. It is you being in the now, unencumbered by all the parts of you that walk with you through time and space. For many years, perhaps you've walked with the pain, with the ills of your past, going everywhere with you like a shadow, right? And when we do that, all of those shadows, all of those aspects that walk with us from the past serve to connect us to those parts of ourselves that live in pain, that live in fear, in limitation, in scarcity. Whether it is literally a physical healing, whether it is a painful or a handful of painful experiences from your past, whether it's about money, work, love, whatever it's about. As we begin to clear those timelines through the tunnels of time and space, through the way that we think and speak over our lives, we begin to unravel those timelines from us. And we create a different circumstance. We create a different alchemy within ourselves that sets us free from all of those aspects that once keep us bound. So if you think about it now, in your timelines of being, from birth, right? Here in the third dimension, time is real. There is the past, there is the present, and there is the future. But the now is none of those. Even the present, I know the present, we're getting closer to the now, but the present is still a part of the time continuum. And the now resides outside of time. That's when synchronicity happens as a continual circumstance. That's when flow in our life occurs with ease and with grace. That's when divine timing is allowed to come in and to intervene through divine appointment, divine intervention. That is the place of miracles, when miracles are allowed to happen. And we are allowing ourselves today to invite in the miraculous, right? We are welcoming the miraculous to our lives today. So how can you be more free now? How can you allow yourself to walk without those ills of the past? Well, we're going to talk about it today. Okay, so there are some very interesting aspects that I like to talk about regarding this. You know, in the past, there's so much in the past, isn't there? And when we think about it, I was writing a book, and I still will be continuing to write it, but it's called The Million Mind Theory. And this theory is based on the premise that we have at a minimum 70,000 thoughts a day, which really doesn't seem like a lot. On one hand, it seems like a lot. But on another hand, if you consider all the thoughts you have, and there's only 70,000 of them, but we'll say for now that that is what it is, 70,000 thoughts every day. Well, it's said that out of those 70,000 thoughts that you think every day, that only a small percentage, let's say maybe 5,000 of those thoughts, are new thoughts. Unless you're very consciously working to reroute and restructure the plane of how you think about yourself, of how you think about life. All of those thoughts are thoughts that you've thought before. And all of those thoughts connect you to who you've been in the past. And if those circumstances in the past are ones that you love, that lighten you, that bring you joy, harmony, and happiness, then bless it. Well-being, that is wonderful. Then those, we can just keep rolling with those. Those are giving us the momentum to keep on our merry way and to keep co-creating a life that we love. On the other hand, if we are experiencing over and over again circumstances, reactions, triggers, addictions, patterns that lead us back to those feelings from the past, well, this is a signal that we can allow ourselves to move out of those older paradigms and into a space of greater love and light. Greater love and light and greater sovereignty. I said love and life, and yeah, that's about true too. Greater love and life, right? There's that saying, that Nicki Minaj and Drake song, and now am I going to remember it correctly? But you can be living, but are you really alive? And to be really alive in this world is what bridging heaven on earth is all about. Okay, so if we're thinking all of these thoughts every day, and a great portion of them are simply keeping us linked to who we've been in the past. And if that portion of our past is that which we wish to seek resolution, we wish to seek freedom from, we wish to transform and change, well, this is where the perfect place for you to be today, to gain an understanding and an insight of how that can happen. And it's simple things, right? Often it is just in the third dimension, a simple practice of communicating and reaching out. Even this week through texts and stuff, I had a few circumstances. I'm a yoga teacher, as some of you know, and until I come back on board, or yeah, okay, come back on board, or come to the full realization that I can indeed earn my living through simply selling my books and through sharing those messages, I'm still in this realm in the 3D of working at extra jobs to help pay my way in my life. Yet my ultimate goal is to sell books and to share these teachings to such a level that I can teach classes anymore, that I can be a full-time author, right? So what does your heart space say to you? I know in my heart that is my truth. But in the meantime, I'm still teaching yoga classes, and I bless them and I welcome them and I give thanks for them. So this week, I had told my one of my bosses at one of the jobs that I was going to be gone because I was facilitating a Reiki workshop. And she had forgotten, right? I teach on Saturday and Sunday mornings, and she had forgotten that I wasn't going to be there. And I got this flurry of text from her saying, "Oh my God, where are you?" And I was like, I told you I wasn't going to be there. And I gave her enough notice and whatnot. But she forgot. She forgot to put it on the books. And so there was a whole bunch of people there waiting to do yoga. And she had forgot to put out the announcement. So she went in there and she told a fib. She said that the yoga teacher had gotten into a small car accident and was unable to come. And I didn't know anything about this. She just had to cover herself and let the people know, like, sorry, but we'll have a yoga teacher here tomorrow, so come back tomorrow, no problem, right? So anyway, she calls me and she told me this. And I thought, wow, on one hand, it's like, whoa, you put me in a car accident? That's not cool, just energetically out there in the spheres. But on another hand, I was like, wow, blessings to you. You actually fessed up. You called me and you made it right. She told me the truth of what the circumstance was. And in that way, I forgave her. I said, well, it's okay. Thank you. I really appreciate you communicating that. You did what you had to do to cover yourself in that moment. And most important is that you're communicating with me now of that circumstance, so that that circumstance can be collapsed. Somewhere inside of her, she knew that if she didn't make that right, if she didn't communicate with me and kind of like clear the air about it, that formula of me having a car accident somewhere in the ethers was still floating out there somewhere. And so, whether she's a student of the grids or a student of metaphysics or not, somewhere deep, deep down inside of her, to do the right thing, to make things correct, and to really dissolve that line that was created, she knew the right thing to do was to communicate to me so that I could hear it. We could both see it together and say, okay, well, we know that's not true. Thank you for letting me know. Bless it, let it go. And then that timeline became dissolved. If she wouldn't have done that, there could have been other issues, right? Whereby it would have been on her mind. Sorry, I'm just checking here. I see that the live stream was getting a little buffered there. So that's a beautiful thing, How many things happen like that in our lives where we tell a little fib or where we kind of cover up, and then we just let that timeline ride without making it right, without correcting, without erasing, without placing love there and allowing it to dissolve for the nature of the true order to abide. Right? So that's one interesting circumstance. On another level, through the texts, where we have a huge family gathering this Christmas, and I'm so excited. And there's like 8 of us on a text message, and we're talking, who's coming over when, and what's the plan for this, what's the plan for that. And one of my relations said, wait a minute, are you coming over for Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, or what's your plan? And we had already discussed this, right? Like, but I know it's the holidays, people get crazy, and they're the ones setting up the dinner and stuff, so I understand she just wanted another head count. So I said, yeah, I'm coming over Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and whatnot. And then there was a pause. And then a little later, I checked my phone, and she texted back saying, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to incur that I didn't want you over or anything. I had just forgotten. And I didn't even take it that way. Yet on her end of the spectrum, she realized, she'd remembered that we'd already had that conversation, and she made it right. So on her side of the court, so to speak, she had thought, oh my God, I didn't mean to put that sort of energy there of like, are you coming or are you not coming? What's going on here? And just by her placing love there, rerouting and placing that text of like, oh my God, well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make it sound like you weren't invited. On her end of the spectrum, in her timeline, everything was clear. On my end, I didn't take it on that way at all. And so I was clear either way. Yet for her, it created a certain peace. Okay. So even those little things of just correcting, right? And then again, with my stepsister, or no, with my with my blood sister, we're texting, talking about the holidays, right? We get off the phone, and with siblings, it's a little more honest, right? She said to me in the text afterwards, she said, well, you were a little short with me. And I thought, oh dear, I don't want to be short with her. And maybe I was tired, and maybe I was not feeling up to my best, or maybe it's just Mercury retrograde, and I have to be extra mindful with how I pace my words or what I share. And so I texted back, and I said, I did not intend to be short with you, sister, forgive me. And so what had gotten to her, which was unbeknownst to me, she expressed and she communicated, and that allowed me to communicate back and place love there. So that timeline, that does not have to be frazzled. That timeline does not have to travel forward through time and meet us in Christmas, where the family's meeting up and where we're still like, where there's like this weird energy between us. So I pray that you understand this. This is so important to collapsing those timelines. And this is just the basic. We're just scratching the surface of how this stuff works. Whether we're aware of it or not, it works to create that peace and that harmony. So is there someone today that you can pick up the phone and text, or that you can call, or that you can even just in your meditation or prayer, go back through that timeline and place love there? Place your ability to forgive them or to ask them of forgiveness there, and allow that love and that forgiveness to do the work of realigning things for us. It is so very powerful. And this is our part of our nature of being human, that we have these reactions and these triggers, and especially at times where there's stress and there's a lot of running around, such as the holidays, or really just any time. And it's about being mindful and conscious, going from unconscious to conscious, and making things right in a way, placing love there. Okay, so who can you make peace with today? We're going to explore this further. I like to think of life as an adventure book, right? An adventure story book. And we have choices. I am on Instagram, and I would love if you join me there. It's Instagram and YouTube are the two social media platforms that I really love being on. All of my descriptions, all of my links rather, are in the description box below in the show me. If you click that, you can visit my Instagram page and perhaps follow. I really enjoy being there. And earlier this week, I posted a picture that was a repost from someone else, and the tag on it is, "You are always one decision away from a totally different life." You are always one decision away from a totally different life. And it really resonated with me because as I was telling you earlier this week, I went through tremendous stress. I had taken on way too much work. And as such, it had caused a certain ripple in my timeline through which I was not able to meet these goals that I had for myself regarding the next book I'm putting out. And it got me so frustrated. It got me so disturbed. And I thought, how could I do this to myself? This is an old grid for me. This is an old lesson for me where I have these goals, these aspirations, these things that I know I can do, I know I can meet. Yet, I also know that these aspects and the way that I would enjoy to do them and manifest them come about through a perfect peace and a perfect divine level of connecting with creation. And it's different to try to hustle a book and finalize and edit a book and get it all ready to go when you're under stress and you're tired and you don't have time. And I become so frustrated with myself. Yet this post reminded me I'm one decision away, right, from changing my life. I'm one decision away. The next time a class comes and it says, "Can you sub for us?" And especially if I know that I have a certain goal and a timeline that I feel in my heart brings me joy to meet, instead of saying yes, I can say no, thank you. But I hadn't said no, thank you. I said yes over and over and over again. And it left me with very little time in my timeline to do that which I was guided, which makes me happy. And so I didn't meet my goals and I was literally crying. I was like, man, this just sucks, you know? But I had to do my best not to resent the people or the places that I'd taken on the work because I'd said yes. And I'm a woman of my word, so I showed up. Yet it is a lesson because we are one decision away from creating that life we love. We are one decision away with every decision, with every choice we make, from changing those timelines of how life shows up for us and how we allow ourselves to show up for life. Like I said, life is like an adventure book. It's like an adventure story, right? If you think about those old, I don't know, when I was a kid in school, there were adventure books, and I would love to write one day. But it would be like Katie and Bob go for an adventure, right? They go for a hike, and Katie and Bob get onto this 2-mile loop, and they're going to do this 2-mile loop. And the story is going to be one way if they just go the whole way around the loop. But maybe a little bit into the hike, they see a sign, and that sign says, "Ooh, scenic loop off of the trail, just a 1/4 of a mile." Well, if they decide to take that scenic route and do that little extra 1/4 of a mile, what's going to happen? That's a different adventure. It adds a different element to their timeline. Equally so, if they simply stay on the path, are they going to run into a snake? Is Bobby gonna sprain his ankle? Is that going to change things, right? So it's like, okay, choices, decisions. As they keep going on, they see a cave. Are they going to decide to stop and eat their lunch there at the cave? If they do stop at the cave, what's going to happen? Are they going to meet some mystical creature who's going to bestow some divine wisdom on them? Are they going to end up sitting and meditating and have a divine interface with nature? You know, what's going to happen? Or are they just going to sit there and eat their sandwiches? Right. And as they continue on, there could be a whole different circumstance. Maybe there's a hot spring. Are they going to get in the hot spring? If they get in the hot spring, does this mean they might make out? Is this is it going to lead to something different? Or are they just going to do the loop and then go home? And so life is like that. It's full of choices and decisions. Yet every decision we make is either going to bring us closer to the greater truth in our hearts and our lives, right? In the truth of us, or it's going to take us further away. For example, like me saying yes, 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 instead of no, thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you, and creating those healthy balances and those healthy abilities to listen to intune and to navigate from that heart space. Okay, so like that, Katie and Bobby, you are Katie and Bobby in your life. What decisions and what choices can you make that will bring you into greater harmony? And again, going back to our million mind theory, right? If we're thinking all of these thoughts, 70,000 thoughts a day, and the majority of them are the same thoughts we've thought yesterday and the day before and years before that, which of those thoughts are on repeat and are simply supporting us having the same reality, the same set of circumstances show up over and over again, and which are not? Okay, everyone, it's the God phone. God is so cool. God calls every single show, and God's awesome. Let's see. Hello? Yes. Good morning, God. Blessings. Oh, thank you so much for being here. Yes, I am. I'm talking about the tunnels of time and space and timelines. We're starting to break it down. God says, hi, everyone. And God wants me to remind us all that God is love that has no opposite. God says, if you want to see God as a gender, as a he or a she, that's fine. If you want to see God in a rocking chair up above the clouds, that's fine too. But ultimately at the baseline, yes, God wants us to know and remember that God is love, the power of love that has no opposite. God is love and only love. Thank you so much. And you want me to read, from A Course in Miracles? Yes, I did. I hope I did. I thought I did. I did. Okay. Thank you so much. Oh, blessings. God says namaste. Namaste, God. Okay. Bye. How cool is that? I love when God shows up. So, as you may know, I like to read from A Course in Miracles. This book has changed my life. And regarding our timelines today, I think this is very interesting that God wants us to just read from a few lessons. Lesson 311, 312, 313, and 314. I judge all things as I would have them be. I judge all things as I would have them be. So how we see things is how we would have them be. If I want to see the people of my past as a villain or as a hero, what I choose to see, the judgment I place, is exactly how I will empower them to show up in my life and be present. Lesson 312, I see all things as I would have them be. And I'm going to read a little bit from this lesson. Perception follows judgment. So that means that whatever I judge, if I judge that person as a villain, that simple perception of how I see that individual is following my judgment, my thoughts about them. Okay? Perception follows judgment. If I choose to see them as a hero, my perception of them is going to be that which aligns them and myself with seeing them in that way. Having judged, we therefore see what we would look upon. For sight can merely serve to offer us what we would have. Okay? It is impossible to overlook what we would see and fail to see what we have chosen to behold. So basically, everything you judge, you give power to. Whether you judge it as good or bad is exactly what you will behold, is exactly what you will experience. And that's the lesson here. Lesson 313. Now let a new perception come to me, right? This is the part of these studies in A Course in Miracles where we say and we pray and we think, you know what? I am willing to see things differently. That villain from my past, I am willing to see them differently. Even if I'm not ready to forgive yet, even if I'm still very hurt, maybe I can at least be willing to see them differently, to see the circumstance differently. And what happens is that begins to soften those hard tied edges of where we are connected, that which connects us with others. It begins to unravel those aspects so that we can be free and they can be free too. And then finally, lesson 314, I seek a future different from the past. From new perception of the world, there comes a future very different from the past. The future now is recognized as but extension of the present. So when we begin to change our ability to see how things were in the past, we literally create a different paradigm through the tunnels of space and time through which things can show up to us differently, right? This is a piece of art that I made, and it's called Love versus Fear. And this illustrates the tunnels of time and space. As we make choices, as we decide, right, through the way we perceive our past, we co-construct the way our future will show up. Because the future is a simple remedy of that which the seeds that we've planted in the here and the now, in the present. And if in the here and the now, in the present, all you're doing is you're rerunning those old patterns of the past, you're rerunning those old aspects of who you were, still in pain, still in misery, well, that's what you're sowing the seeds of for the future to show up. And for so many of us, we continue perpetuating those thoughts, those beliefs that the past is real and the past is true. And so we continue co-creating those situations for us over and over again, right? I was betrayed once in a relationship, and now I have this thought in my head that every person I ever get together with in a romantic relationship is going to betray me. If I think like that continually, from a past circumstance that happened, well, I am simply creating those paradigms through the tunnels of time and space to happen again for me over and over and over again until I choose to see things differently, until I choose to forgive, to place love. Okay, so there's a few other aspects that I really love in that way. So we talked about those phone calls and really just that simple communication of saying, you know what, you were a little short, and being able to then respond and say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that, forgive me, right? Placing love there. My boss, saying, telling a fib over why I didn't show up for yoga class, but then coming clean and telling me what had happened so that we could both place love there and dissolve that timeline. Right? It's all of these ways that we can do this. And this all speaks to forgiveness. Because when we hold on to grudges, or when we hold on to fibs or things that are untrue, not in alignment with love, we perpetuate those aspects that are untrue, and it binds us to the past. And I do want to check in. Please let me know that you're here if you've hopped on, and just send me a little line in the comment box. I am so very grateful for that. I really appreciate your support so much. So there's this interesting aspect. I have been with Reiki since 2000. I got my level 1 attunement in 2001. I had gone up through all of my attunements to a Reiki master, and I've been teaching and practicing Reiki ever since, right? In March, I think, or in May of 2018, it will be 17 or 18 years then that I've been practicing. And Reiki has been such a force in my life to allow me to put the medicine in my hands and to learn how to love myself and place love here. It is such a powerful remedy, right? Where we let love do the work of healing our lives, of healing our minds, our bodies, and emotions. Now, I also have a small video. I'll place it up here, a little link to it later, and it's called remote saging. Years ago, I remember having this issue with a best friend, and it was just, we had a miscommunication and had gotten so convoluted and so stressed, and we kind of ended our meeting, and it was just not cool. And I remember going home and feeling like, man, how can I make this right? And this is before I was attuned with Reiki. This is when I was just beginning to get into the deeper aspects of metaphysics, right? I was meditating, doing my yoga, but I was still learning about all this spiritual stuff. And I had this divine intuition. And the divine intuition said, light sage, and imagine there's a timeline. This is before I even knew about timelines or had began studying them or had become illumined right through my teacher in New York with them. And it said to light that sage and imagine there's a line of energy connecting yourself and that person, and sage that line of energy between you. And so I did. I lit the sage, I created a sacred moment, I took a breath, and I imagined a line of energy, a timeline of energy connecting us both, and I saged that timeline. I didn't try to talk to her in my mind, but that's something you can do. Excuse me, I didn't try to call her. And this is before cell phones, so I didn't try to text her. But what happened is 20 minutes later, I got a call from her. And she said, I really feel weird about how we left things. And I said, oh my God, me too. Thank you for calling. And so anyway, we had this conversation and it all got resolved. I lit sage and I let sage do the cleansing and the purification of that timeline. Is there someone in your life now? Maybe there's a whole tribe you can put in a bubble of light and just sage all of those timelines, through time and space and how you connect with them, and let that sage do the purification and the cleansing. It's really so powerful when we get out of the way and we place love and we have that simple shift within us of being willing to see things differently, being willing to not judge, right? I could have sat there and been like, wow, she was being a real bitch and I'm going to hold a grudge and I'm going to judge all this and da-da. And that would have just created so much energy constipation in that timeline. And that would have created even more grievances for us to have to duel and to unravel. But no, I listened, I asked, and I listened, and I lit the sage. And she ended up calling me and we got everything resolved. Now, another teaching that I share is the energy letter. I will put a link here. The energy letter is so very powerful. I know for many of you that have used it, it is just, it's a phenomenal gift. And it came to me. There's a book that I wrote called The Reiki Apprentice. The link is down in the description box below. It's available currently on Amazon as a paperback and as a Kindle. And it describes my whole journey from a youth up to my early 30s. And specifically, the 3 documented years that I spent with my Grand Reiki Master and all of the divine healing that I went through as I came up through my levels of attunement, and how I learned to heal my life through Reiki and through applied metaphysics. And it gives you an outline whereby you can become your own version of the character in the book that is me, and learn to heal your life through these metaphysical energy tools. And one of them today we're going to be reviewing. But the energy letter is in here. But the energy letter came to me, just like the saging, where it didn't come from my teacher. It came from the teacher. It came from the divine, the source, from God, from love, from light. And it came to me on a mountain in Woodstock when I was going through a lot of revelations and feeling that I had to change my life and have completion and closure with a lot of people, places, and things in my life, even my career. I was in a rock band. I was feeling guided to leave the band and to go on this journey of being this Reiki, facilitator, this Reiki person, and this yoga person, which was completely different from drinking Jack and Coke till 4 a.m, head banging and turning it up to 11, which I still love all that stuff. But my path was calling me in a different way. So anyway, and I was leaving a lover. There was a lot of things that I needed to get out. And while journaling is absolutely a powerful and a very amazing way to resolve and to express our feelings and emotions so that we can get even clearer with our truth, writing an energy letter brings it to that next level. With an energy letter, you as your higher self write a letter to the other person's higher self. And you, in that letter, say everything that you have not been able to say in person, or maybe saying it all over again too. But it's all the things that have been unresolved in your heart. Excuse me, all the things that are unresolved in your cells and in your memory that you seek to make right, that you seek to place love, place forgiveness, or to really get things off of your chest. You can express anger, you can express jealousy, you can express greed, you can express fear, whatever it is. But ultimately, by you expressing through your higher self all of those values, you're giving those aspects a place to go through the pen and the paper. And the practice is, once you've gotten all of those things off and out of your chest, out of your mind, and you've given them a place to go, is that from there you write on the front of the envelope, to your higher self from my higher self. And you don't need to put anyone's names in there. The universe knows who you're writing to and what you're doing, right, with this metaphysical energy tool. And from there, you place that letter in the post box, whatever post box you are guided to. You can put a stamp on it if you want, but no addresses, no names. It's just from your higher self to their higher self. And again, it can be from your higher self to a person, to a place, to a thing, to an experience. You could write a letter if you have addiction. You can write an energy letter from your higher self to that substance that you're addicted to. You can write an energy letter to the past version of yourself that you've been. The painful, hurt version of yourself. You can write an energy letter saying from your higher self. It doesn't always have to be about making peace with other people, places, or things, but it can be about making peace with yourself and going back in time. And as your higher self, writing an energy letter and telling that little girl or that little boy in you what your higher self would say to them to help co-create love and peace. There's a client of mine, and I tell this story because it is so powerful. She, during her level 1 attunement, there's a healing part where I lay hands on the individual after they've received their level of attunement. And I got a serious download that there was a child in her stomach. And this woman is in her 50s and she's not having kids anytime soon. And she had said that there was a lot of grief still in her body. And at the end of it, I said, I felt that there's a child in your stomach. And she started bawling, crying. And the fact of the matter is that she had had an abortion 30 years ago. And she had never made peace. She had never spoken energetically to that child. She had never made peace with that part of herself from the past that did that. She had never forgiven herself for all the reasons why. At the time, she was dealing with addiction. And so there was a lot of shame, a lot of self-blame, a lot of unforgiveness there. And so I offered, as well as many other tools, the energy letter, to go back in time, to write a letter to herself, to that part of herself, that painful past, to write another letter to the child in her stomach, and allowing herself to let that grief, let all those circumstances that are still bound up in her body, mind go. And in that way, create the correct conditions for things to heal. Now, we're coming to an even deeper aspect that I want to do this practice with you. Oh, blessings. Hi, Tammy. Thank you so much for being here. So in these tunnels of time and space, through these timelines, we can collapse time and allow love, that quantum organizer, to make things right, right? To create a divine order in the circumstances of our experience. I had a client years ago who had devastating experiences with her father. And I'll put this in a bubble of light. And of course, no names, everyone is anonymous. Her father didn't physically abuse her, but mentally abused her. And the story as such is that one memory in her mind had her so frazzled, and it was a replay. It was on repeat constantly in her mind. And it created a lot of stress in her life, whereby as a very, very young child, she was maybe 7 or 8, she was made to go out in the freezing cold snow and paint the house. This is the kind of abuse, right, that we're talking about. He didn't hit her, he didn't abuse her sexually, but it was this kind of thing that he would do to her. And because she was a child and he was the elder, she felt she had to do this. And she just remembers being out there in the snow, freezing, painting, crying, feeling, this is not right, this is not right. And so anyway, that feeling, that capsule of time and space planted itself in her, and it went with her wherever she went. Whenever she thought of her father, she'd have this, just all those resistant feelings and those fearful feelings, and that just like that hate and that, like resentment and all that stuff. And this was a trigger for her. And like I was saying earlier in this live stream, all those unresolved things and parts of our past that remain unresolved walk with us wherever we go, right? And they become a part of our subconscious, our unconscious strata, and they begin to navigate and drive how we see people, places, and things in the world, right? So how I judge you is how I'm going to perceive you, like we were reading in the Course in Miracles. So whatever my mind tells me is the truth of what's going on, is how I'm going to perceive you, is how you're going to continue reacting back to me, because that is the frame that I am allowing for life to show up for me and for you as. So we did this exercise, and I'm going to do it with you here shortly. We're going to take a moment to go in. But the exercise was, we got into a little meditative state, and I invited her to go back in time and to go to that circumstance, that exact circumstance that really had her wrapped up in all of that fear and all of those awful, awful feelings of hate, of resentment towards her father, and all those feelings that what that does to you, what that did to her in her own just ability to be sovereign and free and to be relaxed and to be at peace in life. Well, we went back in time. And what we did is we allowed her to rerun the vision. And while she was having it, she was shaking. All those old things were coming up. She was feeling the cold of the snow. She was feeling it all. Her hands were shaking, but she was going in and she was reviewing right through the tunnels of time and space. She was going back through those timelines and connecting with that part of herself as a youth, seeing her father, creating that whole memory strata in her mind's eye. And she did all of this stuff, right? And now the clincher here is how I was guided to work with her, is that she did all of that and she came back in the house afterwards. And here's the rewriting of the memory. I invited her to take off her coat in the house, to get warmed up by the fire, and to see her father walking in, and to see her father saying, "Thank you for painting." And she did have resistance. And this was not the true reality of what happened. What happened is she finished painting, she went into her room and she bawled her eyes out all night. But we were changing the timeline where she was bending with all of her will, with all of her heart power, her ability to see things differently in the past, through that timeline of the past. She saw everything as it was. Didn't feel good, but she was able to see her father come in afterwards in her mind's eye in that past timeline and say thank you for painting to her. Now, it doesn't sound like much, right? And this relationship that she had with her father, he never called her, they didn't talk for years and years, and that was her whole youth. So you can imagine the extension of life was not so harmoniously sweet and intimately filled in her relation with her father. The very next day, I was with her. The very next morning, like early morning, the phone rings and she picks it up and it's her father. And he never calls her, like never called her in her whole life ever. And it was the exact morning after we did that work the evening before. And he just spoke with her for a few minutes and he just said, "How are you? And I'm thinking of you. And I just want you to know that I'm thinking of you. And I just wanted to reach out and say hello and check in." And she was like, like totally almost paralyzed that this was happening. And it was like a 2, 3 minute call. And she hangs up and she sits down and she was like, "Oh my God, you will never believe what happened." And she told me, and I said, "Ah, yes, of course. Of course I believe. Of course we believe. This is exactly the kinds of things that happen when we choose to change the memory, the landscape of the memory through the timelines that connect us to the past." From that point on, her relationship with her father was given space to recreate itself, right? Through the tunnels of time and space, through the ways that she had seen her father, through the ways that she had even seen herself. She was able to begin to forgive him little by little. She was able to begin to forgive herself because she also felt like, well, why couldn't I stand up to him and say no and F off and all that stuff. But she was able to resolve little by little the deep-seated pain that walked with her every day. So I'm going to invite you now today. Earlier I was saying, who is there in your life that you can send that text to, that you can call, that you can write an energy letter to, that you can simply sage, right, that timeline between you, as I did with my friend, and allow the purification of just your simple willingness to place love there do the work for you. So let's take a moment and take a breath and drop within. And I'm going to invite you to go deep into your heart space and really connect. And you'll know, because their face or that experience, that feeling will come up right away. Who is there today? And if you're watching this, if you're here today or a different day watching a rerun, there's a reason for it. So I invite you to truly sit with this exercise for the next couple of minutes. Who is there? And it could be you from the past, but that you know resolution and resolve can be placed now. Who is there in your heart that you might be willing to see things differently with, that you might be willing to time travel back in time and place love there? Now I want you to see them and bring into your mind's eye one specific vision, one specific circumstance that rests deeply within you, that is a trigger point, for all of those aspects of pain, of blame, of shame, of hurt. And I invite you to see that circumstance, to hear their voice, to see them, to see yourself, and to rerun that memory pattern, to rerun that memory in any way that you can imagine brings love and light there. Maybe it's through how you respond, you react to them in this memory. Maybe it's how they respond or react to you. But take a moment to see this, to hear the voices, to see the environment, hear the conversation, even if it's telepathically in this timeline, and see things differently. Allow yourself to see things differently here. Engage with the timeline in a new way, placing love there the best that you can. And in this way, collapsing time, collapsing the past, that you can become more of who you truly are in this present moment. So we'll just take another few seconds here, completing this vision, this memory with a new memory. And when you're ready, we'll slowly come back to the space, opening the eyes, bringing the awareness back. So that's all. That's all we are asked to do. It's very simple, but to have the little willingness to go there in the first place is really so profound and so powerful. And that's you saying yes to love. That's you saying yes to self-love, yes to you, yes to the truth in you. All of those old memories, right, through time that we are connected to that do not bring us joy, that do not help us feel sovereign and free, at peace and content, will only repeat themselves over and over again and contribute to how we experience life unless we choose differently. You have the mental technology. It's in your mind, and you can use it at any given moment to change your circumstances. I'm going to finish up with a tool called Point in Creation. You know, in my apprenticeship with my teacher in New York, we learned many metaphysical energy tools. And I had a lot of issues. I'm going to read now from my book, The Reiki Apprentice. I had a lot of issues with feeling like a victim in the world. I had been sexually abused. I had been bullied in school, and I was a obese and overweight child. And I just had so many issues from my past. And one of the remedies that my teacher offered while she was trance channeling is this. She said, "You are still deeply connected to those feelings of hurt. You are hooked into them, and they feed your feelings of self-worth and self-loathing," right? And next, she said a verbal remedy over me. She said, "Let's release Tuesday of all experiences locked into her cellular memory that trigger negative and limiting behavior regarding not being good enough. And let's release her from reacting to the way she thinks other people perceive her. Let's de-link Tuesday from all beings everywhere throughout all time, space, and dimensions that she perceives have ever made fun of her or bullied her." Okay? So right now, everyone watching, let's ask the universe, that higher grace that is love and light, that you be released of all experiences locked into your cellular memory that trigger negative and limiting behavior regarding not being good enough, not having enough, or feeling pain and fear. For the highest good, let's release them, universe, from reacting to the way they think other people perceive them. Let's de-link them from all beings everywhere throughout all time, space, and dimensions that they perceive have ever done them wrong or have caused pain or harm. It's powerful. I feel it in my cells now. So the next remedy she offers is this tool, going to the point in creation. She says, "Let's go to the point in creation of Tuesday's feeling bullied and made fun of. Let's go to the point in creation of Tuesday thinking she is being bullied and made fun of. Let's go to the point in creation of all experiences locked into Tuesday's cellular memory that trigger negative and limiting behavior regarding not being good enough and the way she thinks other people perceive her. Let's de-link Tuesday from all beings everywhere throughout all time and space and all dimensions that she perceives have abused her in some way." Throughout life, you will have an infinite amount of experiences. Some are forgettable, some we take note of, and some mark us. Ultimately, all experiences we have are points along the timeline of creation. This timeline flows through our third dimensional lives. The experiences that really stick, both positive and negative, are significant and can affect every aspect of your personal life. These are points in creation. So, the way this works, we're going to think about our grid, right? We're going to think about the choices and the decisions we make in any given moment that lead to greater love or greater fear, that keep us repeating those old paradigms of the past, of the pain, of the fear, or that liberate us into greater love and light. And we're going to remember that every time that we have a thought, a feeling, an emotion, a reaction in life, that we are sending out a grid, a thread of energy from our body-mind continuum, an individual grid. We're sending that out, be it fear or love, and we are connecting to the collective consciousness. This is the collective consciousness, the matrix of consciousness. When we use point in creation, we say, I go to the point in creation of feeling pain. I go to the point in creation of being bullied. I go to the point in creation of lack consciousness within me. I go to the point in creation of not listening to my higher self. I go to the point in creation of allowing myself not to be seen in the world. I go to the point in creation of drawing to myself those people, situations, and circumstances that don't allow me to speak my truth. I go to the point in creation of all the parts of me that don't allow me to speak my truth. So we can imagine that point in creation is an energy tool. It's applied metaphysics, an energy tool that is invisible. But our little willingness to say, universe, go to the point in creation, or I go to the point in creation of this pain, of this fearful memory, of this lack consciousness. I go to the point in creation of me not being able to pay my rent every month. I go to the point in creation of my car keep breaking down. I go to the point in creation of me drawing relationships to me whereby I am betrayed. I go to the point in creation of all the memories, feelings, and beliefs within me that believe I can be betrayed. We collapse time. We create space for a new paradigm to happen. So when I say I go to the point in creation of all of the harmful, hurtful memories of my past, what happens is here now, in this moment, I send out lines of light from myself, from source. Lines of light connect to me. And through all of those grids that I've said, I go to the point in creation of, or universe, go to the point in creation of them for me. Lines of light come from source into me through all the points, through all of my bodies, mind, physical, emotional, energetic. And it travels through time and space, throughout the grids, shoo, shoo, with that love and with that light, shoo, and comes back to me cleared. So every time we go to the point in creation, we are calling on love to move through us, through all of the memories of those aspects, of those points of creation that have marked us in life. And love travels through us, throughout the grid, throughout that collective consciousness, spans out through all time and space, through all the people, places, and situations for the highest good that are ready to receive that love and light. And it comes back to us. And it happens in an instant. I go to the point of creation of having cancer. I go to the point in creation of believing that I have to have cancer because it runs in my family. I go to the point in creation, fill in the blank, right? And we begin to learn that thoughts are like fractals. You can go to the point in creation, like I was saying, I go to the point in creation of thinking I need to have cancer because my family has cancer. I go to the point in creation of my body producing cancer cells. I go to the point in creation of having a diet that creates the correct environment for cancer to thrive and to flourish. I go to the point in creation, you're collapsing all those elements and those aspects that are hindering you from being your true you. Does this make sense? I hope it makes sense. So I'm going to review one more time. You can go to the point of creation, or you can ask the universe to go to the point of creation of circumstances from your past. And when you do, this washes all of the lines of connection through you, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, through all time and space with the collective mind. washes them clean with love and light, and brings that love and light back to you, back to source. And all the aspects that are ready to collapse, that are ready to be renewed and washed, will be. These energy tools are for the highest good of all. They never force a will of any person, place, or thing. They always work in the greatest harmony for you and for everyone involved. So if someone's not ready to have that love and light hit them, it's not going to hit them. It's only going to work in the areas around those people, places, and things and circumstances to bring that love and light back, so that healing can take place, so that you can be free, so that you can rewrite the timelines of your life, so you can rewrite how life shows up to you. Yes, okay, you are. It makes sense. Good, good, beautiful. I know there's so much more on this, and I'm sure I'll do a completely separate video on the YouTube that is not a live stream where we can really break this down. But just knowing that the only time there is the now moment, and this is where your true power and authority reside. This is where your full love and light resides. This is where your truth is. And all of those memories of the past that allow you to further embody that, to be uplifted into your truth, are a blessing, right? And the other ones are a blessing also, yet we can use them. They are our medicine, whereby we can transform. We can time travel into the past. We can place love there. We can rewrite the memory in a simple prayer or meditation. We can write an energy letter. We can light sage. Or if you don't have a lighter, you don't have sage, energetically imagine you're holding a smudge bundle and sage those timelines between you, between people, places, and things. And then allow that greater love, that greater light to create those perfect circumstances for perfect healing to be. Blessings, blessings. We will go into that more. We will. For now, I'm so very grateful that you've joined me this morning. And if you have questions further on this, I would be so grateful. Email me. My email is down below, so that as I compile a video specifically on point and creation, I can answer direct questions. Join my mailing list through my website, which the link is also below. And I will send out a newsletter once or twice a month with information regarding all of my offerings. I do have a free book for you, a couple of free books. You get a free book when you join my newsletter, my mailing list, called The Higher Self, Blueprint of Mastery. And there's also a free ebook called The Nowosphere on iBooks and at Amazon. It's a mini book, and it helps us get through the void. It helps us understand who we are at our essence and become easier aligned in living the nowosphere. In living in the now, it is a very different altitude of relating with ourselves, of relating with the world. And as we dissolve those timelines of the past where fear and pain has had a hold on us, right? It can be scary. It can be scary to traverse life free of those shields, free of all of that padding that we've carried for so long, right? It's one thing to forgive someone and now go and actually be in their presence and allow them to show up in grace. Allow yourself to show up in grace. And that's where we're at. That's where we're going. And sometimes it can be very, very hard, right, to experience these new levels of sensitivity and acclimate to them in the nowosphere as we release the past. And that little book, The Nowosphere, Understanding Your Spiritual Sensitivity, is a blessing. And I pray it brings you blessings in your life as you traverse your path of spiritual growth. Again, I'm Tuesday Mae Thomas, and I'm so very grateful to be with you here today. It is a blessing and a true honor. I thank you for showing up. Namaste, everyone. I'm going to play us out with our little intro outro. Ah, April's here. Yay. Blessings. I'm going to put these little glasses on here for a second. Oh, thank you too, sister. I'm so grateful. All right, everyone, until next time. And I'm hoping that next time I will be speaking about my book. As I said earlier in this live stream, that I had taken on too much work. And I got stressed out and I wasn't able to meet my priorities. So it's still kind of up in the air over what next week's live stream will be about. Though I am praying that it will be about my book, How to Manifest by Living the Law of Vibration, why the law of attraction will only take you so far and how to surpass it. Until then, I'm so very grateful as always, and thank you for commenting in the comment box. I'm going to bring up our little intro outro. and get all my little goodies happening here. I thank you so much. Blessings.